Okay, good evening members. Welcome to tonight's special meeting, digital meeting of Council being held via Microsoft Teams on Wednesday the 24th of February 2021. I'd like to welcome back Councillor Oliver and Councillor Simmons. I'm going to pass you over to Mrs Harry now and can I ask you to confirm the proceedings to the meeting? Thank you.
Of course, thank you, Madam Mayor, and noswaith cyngor, good evening, Council. We will not be live streaming this evening's meeting. However, it will be recorded and made available to view via the Council's website, except for discussions involving confidential or exempt items. Therefore, the images, audio of those individuals present and or speaking will be publicly available to all via the recording on the Council's website at www.caerphilly.gov.uk. If members lose connection during the live meeting, please make every attempt to reconnect. However, the meeting will continue as long as it remains quorate. Democratic Services staff are available and will be able to assist you to reconnect if necessary. I wish to also remind everybody that the Mayor has the discretion to terminate or suspend recording if, in her opinion, continuing to do so would prejudice the proceedings or that continued recording might infringe the rights of any individual. The Mayor also has the right to remove persons from the remote meeting if that is deemed necessary. All members should have already checked their headphones, microphones and IT equipment before the meeting commenced. I wish to remind members and officers to ensure that all microphones have been muted. Group leaders, deputy leaders, cabinet members and key officers have been asked to leave their cameras on. All other members and officers, please can I ask you to turn your cameras off unless making representations. Members will need to unmute their microphones and turn on their cameras when called to speak by the Mayor. Votes this evening will be taken using Microsoft Forms. When a vote is required, the monitoring officer will direct members to open Show Conversation, where the form will appear, and then click on Yes, No, Abstain, and then click on Submit Vote. The names and votes cast will be recorded and published to our website following this evening's meeting. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Mrs Harry. So we move on to our agenda. Number 1 is apologies for absence, and as detailed within the meeting conversation or chat, if members are aware of any apologies not listed, please add them to the chat or notify Democratic Services. Thank you. Councillor Hussey, you've got your hand raised.
Yes, Madam Mayor, just to make an apology for Councillor Jerry Mayer. He's running a bit late, but he will be joining the meeting later.
Okay, thank you very much. On to item 2, declarations of interest. Councillors and officers are reminded of their personal responsibility to declare any personal and or prejudicial interests in respect of any item of business on this agenda in accordance with the Local Government Act 2000, the Council's Constitution and the Code of Conduct for both councillors and officers. Members, please use the hands up function to indicate if you have any such declarations. Councillor Davis.
Declaring the Wales Fire and Rescue Authority on the item of the funding of that authority.
Thank you, Councillor Davis. Councillor Hussey, please.
The same as Councillor Davis as well, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Anyone else? No. Thank you very much. Moving on to item 3, Capital Strategy Report 2021 to 2022. Councillor Leonard Stenner, can you introduce the report, please?
Thank you, Mayor. The purpose of the report is to submit for approval the Authority's Capital Strategy Report for the 2021-22 financial year in accordance with the Prudential Code that was introduced by the Local Government Act 2003. Since 2019, it has been a requirement of the SIPFA Prudential Code to produce a capital strategy. The purpose of the capital strategy is to give a high-level overview of how capital expenditure and capital financing and treasury management activity contributes to the provision of services, along with an overview of how associated risk is managed and what the implications might be for future financial sustainability. The report includes overarching details of the core capital budgets for both the General Fund and the Housing Revenue Account. Further details of how the core capital budgets are allocated to directorates are provided in the 2021-22 Budget Proposals Report. In addition to the core capital budgets, the wider capital programme will also include a range of schemes funded from other sources, examples external grants. The capital strategy also includes details of what can be classed as capital expenditure and the decision-making framework for the capital investment proposals. This is underpinned by the Prudential Code for Local Authority Investment, which ensures that capital investment plans are affordable, prudent and sustainable. The Treasury management decisions are taken in accordance with good professional practice, that local strategic planning, asset management and proper option appraisals are supported. In terms of the recommendations, Council is asked to approve the 2021-22 Capital Strategy Report. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Stenner. I understand that Councillor Nigel George will second.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yes, I'd like to take the opportunity to second the report. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Having been moved and seconded, the debate is now in order. Members, if you have any comments, please indicate now using the hands up button. Please turn your camera and microphone on when called and lower your hand again by clicking on the hands up button when you have finished making your representations. Thank you, members. I have no hands. So I will hand over to Mr. Tranter for the vote. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Okay, members, you'll have a poll in front of you shortly in which to vote on the capital strategy. So I'm going to give you 60 seconds, please. So if you could all vote now, so it's in the middle of your screen, for, against, abstain, and then press the submit button, please. Thank you. Okay, thank you, members. As normal, did anybody have any difficulties there in voting? If so, if you could tell me now, and I'll make a note of how you wish to vote. Just to clarify, if you did vote electronically, obviously you won't have two votes, okay? But we'll check that off after the meeting. So if anybody's had any trouble, if they could tell me now, please.
Well, can I ask you, please, Councillor Gaynor is asking, how do I vote on the telephone?
Okay, if you could tell me, Councillor Oliver, please, you were joining us this evening by telephone. So if you could tell me, please, if you are for, against, or wish to abstain on the report, and I'll make a note of that.
Well, I'm for.
Thank you very much. So your vote has been noted. Thank you, Councillor Oliver. Anybody else?
Yeah, Mr. Tranter, so Councillor Brenda Miles here. I think I may not have voted. I had a submission failed message.
Okay. How would you like to vote, Councillor Miles? For, please. Okay, I'll make a note of that. And as I say, if you did manage to vote, we'll cancel that vote off. Any other members, please?
Yes, Rob, I think mine has stopped as well. I wanted to vote for.
Okay, and that's Councillor Bazina, is it?
That's correct. Yes, thank you.
Thank
Mr.
you.
Tranter?
Yes. Councillor James, is it?
My computer, you.
Okay. Councillor James, how would you like to vote? Councillor James, you're on mute, Councillor James. So if you unmute, and then you can speak to me, please.
Can you hear me now?
I can hear you now. Yes.
Right. It's flicking on and off. The computer is playing up, and also I got no hand area to put my hand up because I wanted to speak on the matter, but the thing is, and I've got nowhere to show, what I'm doing. So I want to abstain from it, but I couldn't actually register. I couldn't register any question. So
Okay. Perhaps if you wish to speak on a report later on the agenda, if you could inform the mayor, and I'm sure she will let you in.
Yes, thank you very much.
Thank you. Any other members with any other difficulties, please?
Well, mine flashed through, and I just opened it. It did record.
Okay, Councillor Higgs, are you for or against or abstain?
I'm for.
Okay, thank you. I'll just make a note of that. So there we are, then, members. After all that, the report is approved and the recommendation is carried. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Tranter. So we'll move on to item 4, which is the Treasury Management Annual Strategy, Capital Finance Prudential Indicators and Minimum Revenue Provision Policy for 2021 to 2022. Councillor Leonard Stenner, can you introduce the report, please?
Thank you. The report before you this evening presents the annual strategy for Treasury Management. It includes a data set of prudential indicators relevant to Treasury Management and Capital Finance. The report cross-references to the report by the Corporate Director of Education and Corporate Services on revenue and capital budgets. This report seeks approval for the minimum revenue policy to be adopted by the authority for 2021-22. This report was presented to P&R scrutiny on the 12th of January 2021, and members of the committee were given the opportunity to question officers on the content of the report. Following debate, this report was supported by scrutiny, and therefore Council is asked to support the recommendations at 3.1 to 3.9 of this report. I move.
Thank you, Councillor Stenner. I understand that Councillor Colin Gordon will second, please.
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, I'm happy to second the recommendations.
Thank you, Councillor Gordon. Having been moved and seconded, the debate is now in order. Members, if you have any comments, please indicate now using the hand up button. Please turn your camera and microphone on when called and lower your hand by clicking again on the hands up button when you are finished making your representations. Thank you, members. Councillor Martin, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. As we can all see, there's enough material in here to keep us going all night if we really wanted to. But I did make comments in P&R a couple of days ago, or last night actually. So basically, just to repeat some of what I said there, that it is pleasing to note that we are looking to get a 0.85% return on our on the money which is not being used at the moment, rather than the derisory sort of amounts that we used to get from the Government Debt Management Office. So that is a pleasing development, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you. I have no other hands. Councillor James or Councillor Oliver, do you wish to say anything before I hand over to Mr. Tranter for the vote?
No.
No. Thank you. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you both. I will hand over to Mr. Tranter. Thank you.
Thank you, members. So once again, we're going to vote on the report 60 seconds to vote. Card in front of you. Off you go, please. Thank you.
Is that me?
This is Councillor Miles. I've had another submission failure, so could I record my vote manually, please, for?
Okay, Councillor Miles. Councillor Oliver?
For.
Thank you very much, Councillor Oliver. Okay, any other members with any difficulties?
Yeah, please? I still got a problem, Mr. Tranter, so okay. I'm for.
Thank you, Councillor James. I've noted that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Councillor Williams has his hand raised, Mr. Tranter.
Okay, Councillor Williams, may I help? No. Okay, Madam Mayor, the report has been carried. Okay, 57 voted.
Can you hear me now, Bob?
Oh, there we are. Sorry. Yep. Councillor Williams, I do apologise. You are for.
But
thank you very much.
How do you vote before you? Which is the ones you tap onto?
Well, there's a poll. A screen comes up in front of you. Yes, and there are three options: for, against, abstain, and then a submit button. And after you vote, if you press submit, and that's it. You could very well have voted, Councillor Williams, and if you have done that electronically, we'll make a note of that. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you very much indeed, Madam Mayor. The report is carried. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Tranter. We move on to item number 5: budget proposals for 2021 to 2022 and medium-term financial outlook. Councillor Leonard Stenner, can you introduce the report, please?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I am pleased to present a balanced and robust budget to Council this evening, which once again demonstrates that this authority is continuing to deliver on its record of effective budget management during these difficult times. The key headline, which I am sure you will all welcome, is the fact that our proposals do not include any new cuts to services for 2021-22. As you know, we have been required to make a range of significant cuts and reductions to services over recent years. So it is pleasing that we are in a position to protect our key services for the next 12 months. This is thanks to a positive financial settlement from Welsh Government, coupled with our ongoing prudent financial approach. This improved position was much needed this year, particularly in light of the significant pressures and challenges that we continue to face responding to the coronavirus pandemic. The 3.1% uplift in the provisional financial settlement, along with the proposed increase in council tax of 3.9%, will mean that there will be no requirement for any new savings to be identified to balance the budget. I appreciate that none of us want to see an increase in council tax, but the reality is that without this modest increase of 3.9%, we would need to consider unpalatable and unpopular cuts to services. It is important to note that this proposed increase is likely to be lower than many other councils across Wales, and I would also like to stress that currently in this financial year, there is only one council in Wales with lower council tax levels than Caerphilly County Borough Council. It is clear that we are doing our best to protect residents, as we recognise that our communities are also experiencing difficult times at the moment. We are working hard to ensure that this council remains financially resilient during these uncertain times, and I would like to thank all those involved for making this possible, particularly Steve Harris and the officers in his finance team who have worked so hard to finalise these budget proposals. Turning to the report, I want to bring your attention to a number of key outcomes that really define what we want to achieve in our budget proposals for 2021-22. We will maintain service provision across the council. We will fund increasing demand and service pressures in key areas such as social services and education. We will enable new community-focused investments in areas such as Caerphilly Cares and the proposed Community Empowerment Fund. We will provide the capacity and resilience required to drive forward the Team Caerphilly Transformation Programme and Place Shaping Plan. And we will address legacy issues in respect of income shortfalls in a number of service areas. The Council is on a journey of recovery, improvement and transformation, and the proposal set out in the report will provide a sound platform for us to move forward with our ambitious plans. Details of the 2021-22 final local government settlement will not be announced until the 2nd of March. However, it is anticipated that this will not vary significantly from the position set out in the provisional settlement. It is important that I emphasise that the financial settlement does not cover the financial implications of the ongoing coronavirus pandemic, both in terms of the additional costs that continue to be incurred and income losses. These will continue to be funded through Welsh Government grants, and the position will be kept under close review as we move into the new financial year. Section 5.4 of the report and Appendix 2 provide details of the projected movement on general fund balances. Members will recall that in previous years the council tax surplus has been channelled through the general fund to support the base budget in the following financial year. In normal years, this surplus is estimated to be a circa £1.050 million, but members will be aware that council tax collection has been adversely impacted during the 2020-21 year due to COVID-19. Whilst the Welsh Government has provided some funding to mitigate this, it would not be prudent at this stage to assume that a council tax surplus will be achieved in the current year to support the budget for 21-22. For 1 year only, it is therefore recommended that the £1.050 million required to support the 2021-22 budget should be funded through a call on the general fund. Council is also asked to note that after allowing for the projected take to work imbalances from anticipated underspends on the 2020-21 revenue budget, that the projected balance for the general fund is £11.232 million. This represents 3.05% of the proposed 2021-22 net revenue budget, which is marginally above the minimum level of 3% that is recommended by the Section 151 officer. Whilst the 3.1% uplift in the financial settlement is welcome, the future funding situation for local government is likely to be challenging due to the unprecedented financial and economic impact of COVID-19 and the strain that will be put on public finances for years to come. Section 5.7 of the report provides details of the financial outlook for the 4-year period 2022-23 to 2025-26, and it is clear that significant savings will be required moving forward. The Council is well placed to deal with this challenge, and our transformation programme will be the key driver in ensuring that financial resilience is maintained in future years. It has been many years since a no-cuts budget has been presented to this Council. This no-cuts budget, brought by the Labour-led administration, will not only bring much-needed relief to residents, but give them assurance that Council services will be retained and the confidence that this authority is well placed to fund increasing demand for services, allowing us to meet the needs of residents in the borough, thanks to a generous settlement from the Labour-led Welsh Government. I would like to take this opportunity to thank all our hard-working staff who have worked tirelessly throughout this pandemic, and I am sure that you will be comforted in the knowledge that due to sound financial acumen of this administration, they have job security in these very challenging times. I would like again to recognise the efforts of all of those who have been involved in the preparation of this report, as well as staff at all levels across the organisation who are doing their bit to identify savings and deliver efficiencies and the residents of our county borough. I previously touched on the 3.9% increase in council tax, and I know this will cause real concern for some residents who are struggling with job losses, furlough and decreasing family finances. I am mindful of the adverse comments in the press and on social media platforms, including a petition that has been handed in, Stop the Hike in Town Council Tax. However, this should be put in perspective, and we must not lose sight of the fact that the monetary increase in a Band D property is 89 pence per week and a Band A property 59 pence per week. This increase at the highest rate is comparable to the cost of a first-class stamp, but guarantees no cuts in crucial services. It is accepted that not everyone will be in a position to absorb this cost, and therefore I am proud of the fact that this Labour administration has created the Caerphilly Cares service, which is there to support residents of this borough. The council tax reduction scheme are also there to assist residents who find themselves struggling with their finances. We are going through the most challenging time for a generation, and we will not be thanked by residents of this borough for playing politics on such an important issue at such unprecedented times. I would urge cross-party support for this no-cuts budget, since I am sure that there is not one member of this council who would not want to invest in our communities, social services and education for the benefit of all residents. Madam Mayor, may I conclude by proposing the recommendations of the budget report. I move.
Thank you, Councillor Stenner. I understand that Councillor John Ridgewell will second. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Mayor, and thank you for the opportunity of speaking on this, because I think it's important to remind everyone again, and I make no apologies for restating this, here we have a no-cuts budget. A no-cuts budget which provides us with a secure financial roadmap for the future. But it isn't just a no-cuts budget. Importantly, it's also a post-COVID renewal budget that directly points the way to our plans for an ambitious and exciting green recovery. And so I'm absolutely delighted to be seconding this report. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Ridgewell. Can I now hand over to the leader who would like to say a few words? Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. It's extremely pleasing to be here today deciding the budget for our council for 21-22. It is the first budget in many years that we have seen a no cuts, and in fact to be able to recommend growth in several areas as already outlined by Councillor Stenner. It is important to note that this will help our onward journey to transformation and the implementation of the wellbeing and place shaping framework passed in the Cabinet this morning. It offers hope, strength and purpose. This budget focuses on delivery improvement and financial resilience. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Leader. Having been moved and seconded, the debate is now in order. Members, if you have any comments, please indicate now using the hands up button. Please turn your camera and microphone on when called and lower your hand by clicking again on the hands up button when you are finished making your representations. Thank you, members. I already have several hands up, so please be patient and I will call you all in turn. Thank you. First, I come to Councillor Julian Simmons, please.
Thank you, Mayor. I appreciate that. In relation to the 5.3.21 of the report, can I ask the Cabinet Member for Social Services, please, to provide us with some more information of the cost pressures, please? Thank you.
Can I ask the Cabinet Member to answer, please?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Mayor. I want to remind members and the public that the pandemic is continuing to impact on social services and the situation remains very much in flux. Within adult services, demand for home care services has increased by around 7%, causing a financial pressure of around 1 million for 2021-22. Demand for supported living and shared lives placements has increased by a similar level, which has added a further pressure of another 1 million. Within children's services, there has been an increase in demand for residential care. With these increases in placements, social services requires a growth of 2.5 million to meet the full year cost of placements in the 2021 to 2022 financial year. All members have rightly praised the work of our frontline staff, especially in social services. However, I ask that all members support this budget and provide our staff with the resources it needs to carry out its essential service in these unprecedented times. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Cook. Councillor Mann, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Could I say at the outset that the Plaid Group recognises the good parts of the budget proposals. We welcome the fact that there will be no service cuts. This has been largely helped, of course, by the 9 million support from the Welsh Government when nothing was originally expected. And apologies to the finance staff, Madam Mayor, I did intend to thank Steve Harris and all the finance staff for the amount of hard work they put in. To go on to where I was, what does concern us, however, is that this budget could have been delivered at a lower cost to council taxpayers of the county borough. For many people, the council tax bill is the biggest monthly outlay they face. For others, second only to the mortgage payment. What justification is there that this council can ask our residents to find nearly 4% extra when inflation and wage rises are minimal? Compared to 2018-19, Bandy households will be paying an extra £42 per month from this April. Can this really be justified? I'm sure that we all know friends, family or neighbours who are facing redundancy or have already lost their jobs. Only last week, the Bevan Foundation pointed out that inequality in Wales is increasing, with nearly a quarter of Welsh homes seeing a fall in income due to a mixture of redundancies and furlough pay. Do we really need to inflict more pain on them? Labour has traditionally been a party for those with a social conscience. Where is the social conscience of members of this council if you pass this budget rise this evening? Could I remind Labour members that Keir Starmer, the British Labour leader, has appealed for there to be no council tax rise at all. We feel that there is scope within the budget to save £849,000, which would mean reducing the proposed rise by 1.5%. We feel that the amount allowed for pay rises is certainly more than what will be needed. We fully support giving our employees proper pay rises, but the sum included is more than is realistically needed. Another area is to get the industrial property rentals back on track. We also have concerns about the £500,000 included for the transformation project. These people were initially employed on the basis that they would pay their way at no extra cost to the authority. There's room in the budget to reduce the rise, and I give notice, Madam Mayor, that I wish to move an amendment later in the debate. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Mann. Can I ask Councillor Stenner to respond to that, or would it be possible for Mr. Harris?
Oh, I don't mind responding to Councillor Mann, and I'm sure that...
Madam Mayor, won't that close the debate?
I'm not sure. Mr. Chanter, can I have some advice, please?
If you've asked some questions, Councillor Mann, then it's not going to close the debate, is it? Because all Councillor Stenner is doing is answering those questions, or if she doesn't answer the questions, I presume that Mr. Harris, the 151 officer, will answer the questions. So no, these are responses to the questions that you've asked in your speech, I believe. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chanter. Councillor Stenner, please.
Yeah, okay. What I was going to say is I will touch on some of the points that Councillor Mann has raised, and I'm sure If Steve Harris has got anything further to add, he can come in behind me. So with regards to not having a 3.9% rise in council tax, as I've previously stated, by not raising council tax by this amount, we would need to make some unpalatable cuts to services within the council budget. With regards to Keir Starmer, I believe that he's called on no council tax rise in English councils. I didn't hear him saying Welsh councils, but that's what I believe. And also, going back to the council tax rise of 3.9%, if we don't, if we put a lower rise in income in council tax.
Point of order, Madam Mayor. Point of order. These are not answers to questions. This is Councillor Stenner making further statements. Mr. Tranter said that Councillor Stenner would be allowed to answer questions without closing the debate, but they are not answers to questions. These are statements being made by Councillor Stenner to further her argument in the debate, which I can understand Councillor Stenner would want to do, but that is not answering questions, and I'm afraid that might well be then for closing the debate. So could Mr. Tranter come back on that one, please?
Mr. Tranter, please.
Yes. So, members, if you are going to speak again, if you could answer the points that have been raised with you, that would be helpful. Thanks. Cheers.
I will then hand over to the officer Steve Harris to answer any questions, because I wouldn't want to be making further statements in order to push this budget through.
Thank you, Councillor Stenner. Mr. Harris, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and good evening, members. I'll respond to these obviously from a Section 151 perspective, each of the points made by Councillor Mann. In respect of the proposal to reduce the council tax increase to 2.4%, that would have a net impact on the budget, as Councillor Mann said, of £849,000. The only comment I would make on that is that moving forward, you'll see from the updated medium-term financial plan that we do have a savings requirement of 21.1 million for the 4-year period 22-23 through to 25-26. And clearly, if we were to increase the council tax by 2.4%, that £849,000 would be lost from the base budget and would add to that savings requirement moving forward. In respect of the pay uplift, we have included the allowance for the £250 payment for staff earning less than 24k. As members will be aware, a pay freeze has been announced by the UK government. But it is important to note that the UK government cannot impose a pay freeze on local authorities, as pay is determined between the employers and the trade unions. Furthermore, in relation to teachers' pay, the independent Welsh pay review body on teachers' pay was established in March 2019 to make recommendations to WG on the pay and conditions of teachers in Wales. The review body reports directly to the Minister for Education, and ultimately it will be the Welsh Government that will determine any uplift from September 2021. Within the budget proposals, we've allowed for a modest increase of 1% for all staff, alongside the payment I mentioned of £250 for the staff earning below £24,000. That is not out of line with what other local authorities are doing. It's a prudent thing to do. As I've said, the UK government cannot impose the pay freeze, so we may well be in a situation where we do have to fund uplifts at some point. I will be proposing that we hold this funding centrally until we know what the final outcome is on the pay negotiations, and at that point we can obviously release any uplift into service areas. And in relation to the investment in the transformation team, members are well aware from the seminar on Monday evening of the the aspirations for the council in terms of both transformation and the place shaping plan. and this investment is required to move that forward at pace. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Harris. Can I bring the leader back in, please?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Mayor. If I may, as WLGA employment spokesperson, I really think it's important that I stress that actually the pay claim has been received for this year, and pay talks have only just started. So that is at 10% for the three main unions, and obviously the teachers' pay is still ongoing. But just to highlight, that is in, the pay claim is in at 10%, and talks are only just beginning up and down the country. And councils are talking around, about the fact that there could be a claim, between 1% and 2%, or even up to 2.75%. So you just need to be aware of that. That is the conversation that's taking place at the moment. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Leader. Councillor Mann, do you want to come back with your amendment now, or can I ask other members to speak on the debate, please?
I'm happy to come back later, Mayor. Thank you.
Okay. I'll call Councillor Mike Davis then, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm glad to see that it's stated that there won't be any service cuts, and I assume that's including the quality of service. However, in reality, I would like to know, is this compared with last year, which is obviously in COVID times? And obviously, there has been a lot of savings and service cuts. So what I'm wondering is that if it's going to be compared on last year, then in reality, there will be cuts. Can I have an answer to that, please?
Be Councillor Stenner or Mr. Harris?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Mayor. Certainly from my perspective, I've explained to members on numerous occasions that the additional costs and income losses due to the COVID pandemic are dealt with outside of the budget, and that will continue to be the case as we move into the new financial year. So what we're doing here is protecting budgets that would be in place under normal circumstances. So as we return to a new normal, those budgets are protected and will be there for use in the future.
Thank you, Mr. Harris.
Can I come back, Madam Mayor, please?
Councillor Davis, yeah.
Yeah, I understand what you say about the budget, but can you guarantee to me that the quality of service will be at least as good as it was before the, not last year, but the one previous?
Mrs. Harry, please.
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. Yes, in terms of what the 151 officers just outlined, is that we are aiming to protect the existing services that we had prior to COVID, and with that, the quality standards that we delivered then would be maintained here on in. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Harry. I'll call Councillor Whitcomb, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd like to thank the Cabinet Member and the Leader for recognising the work of teachers and all other key workers during the pandemic. I'm sure we're 99.9% of us would agree that's been excellent. And I was somewhat surprised to read a press release from Plaid asking that the budget provision set aside for a pay rise for those staff be cut. I think this is a shameful slap in the face to our workforce, who have worked extremely hard during this pandemic. And you know, in terms of releasing
point of order, Madam Mayor.
Point of order.
I believe that Councillor Wickham has not read the press release correctly. We did not say what you've just stated.
Well, I'd like to ask Councillor Mann if he's comfortable with Plaid's suggestion to reduce £650,000 from the budget that was set aside to pay our staff. He's mentioned social conscience and he mentioned poverty in the area. I'd like to ask that Councillor Mann where his social conscience is in relation to the staff employed by this borough. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Whitcomb. Do you want to come back to that, Councillor Mann, please?
Happy to answer it later, Madam Mayor, if it helps.
Okay, thank you. I'll move on to Councillor Wyn David, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd like first to ask two questions.
and then make some comment afterwards. My questions are, is the proposal to construct a power line from Gerllia Gwelldicha Farm in my ward to Penarthur budgeted for in this capital programme? And if so, how much and where is it in the report? Will the cost, secondly, then, from the revenue budget, will the costs of buying the electricity be funded from this budget?
Thank you, Councillor David. Is that Councillor Stenner or somebody else?
Madam Mayor?
Yes.
If I could come in.
You can,
first of all,
Councillor Morgan.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yeah, thanks for the question, Councillor David. The costs for putting in place the electrical connection, which is somewhere in the region of £700,000, is not directly noted in this budget, as I believe, as it could well come from a regeneration budget, which is recognised, which may well be recognised in years. So there's no specific point at which it recognises that connection in this report, and unless it's there in the detail, and Steve Harris may have something to add to that. As for the revenue in purchasing the electricity, well, that is in the revenue budget, because we purchase electricity year on year from the grid. There is a potential for a lower cost, so therefore a saving if we go down the route of the electrical connection that you're talking about. Yeah, I think that covers it. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Morgan. Can I bring Mr. Harris back in, please?
Yeah, just to clarify, that proposal is not reflected in the report in front of you this evening, and clearly that would be subject to a separate report that we would be taking through due process in due course.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. You know, what I want to say is this is an excellent budget, maintaining services, jobs, and the first time in a long time it contains no cuts. I'm 99% in favour of this budget, and I want to be able to vote for it. The residents in my ward are incensed that the council have a proposal to buy electricity from Bryn Group and construct a power line from the farm to Penarthur. I don't want to debate this matter tonight, but I'm tempted to move a minor amendment because this is so important to myself and my fellow ward members. And that is that a final decision on the proposal will be made by the full council and not the cabinet. My reason for doing this is that I wish in the debate to be able to vent mine and my residents' feelings against this proposal, and then be given this.
Can I stop you there, please?
Finished, Madam.
Councillor David, it is not in the report, so we should not be discussing it at this moment.
It is in the report. With respect, Madam Chairman, it is in the report because the money to purchase this electricity is coming from the revenue budget, which we're considering tonight. So I respectfully ask you to let me continue.
Can Mr. Harris come back in, please?
Yeah, just to confirm on the revenue side, clearly we would have a revenue budget for utility costs. But again, there is no direct link to the proposal that you're discussing within this budget report. And as I said, this would be subject to a further report, which members would have the opportunity to scrutinise moving forward.
Thank you, Mr. Harris.
So you're refusing me the opportunity to move amendment?
It's not in the report to be discussed, Councillor David. Can we move on, please? Thank you. Councillor Bazina, please.
Okay, thank you, Madam Mayor. My question is to Councillor Stenner. I'd like to ask, please, how many households are registered for council tax in the Caerphilly County that benefit from the council tax reduction scheme, and how many of these households actually receive 100% reduction in their council tax? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Bazina. Councillor Stenner, please.
Thank you for that question. I believe that there is 16,800 houses receiving financial support through the council tax reduction scheme, and I believe that it's just over 10,500 of these that are receiving 100% reduction in their payments. Again, if that is incorrect, I'm sure that Steve Harris can come in and correct me. Thank you.
Mr. Harris, do you wish to add anything to that?
No, the figures are correct. The 16,800 households is 21.06% of all households in the county borough. And the actual figure for the 100% reduction is 10,584.
Thank you, Mr. Harris. Councillor Bazina, anything else?
No, thank you. Thank you for that.
Thank you. Councillor Mike Adams, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, for the opportunity to come in tonight, and thank Steve, all of his staff, and all of the staff of Caerphilly County Borough, whether they be teachers in schools or all of the staff who put themselves out over and above their normal duties to make sure that Caerphilly comes through this pandemic and other things with the highest regards of all of their residents. And that information, I'm sure, will be spread all over Wales. Caerphilly has done well, and we continue to do well. 3.9%, yeah, we'd all like it to be zero increase, but that's unfortunate. We have to carry on. We have to reward or prepare to reward both teachers and other staff with this 1% inclusion. As the leader has said, that 1% may have to be revised upwards, and of course our staff would love that to be the case, but we'll see what happens in the near future. One of the things I remember Keir Starmer saying was an appeal to the Chancellor of the Exchequer to make sure that no increases in council tax happened across all of the UK, England and Wales. And of course, he's been ignored by the Chancellor of the Exchequer to make sure that, unfortunately, we have to take these decisions to maintain our services by our own means. And as we've just had the answer to, very many of our residents, again, will be paying very little extra council tax because of the schemes that we have in place for that. So I'd be well hearing to Councillor Mann's repeated moves on how we can take 1.5% off and nobody's going to suffer. That will be great, but you won't be able to do it, unfortunately. Thank you very much, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Adams. Can I call Councillor Mann? Do you want to reply to that? I can see you on the screen there, or can I call the next speaker, please?
No, if I can carry on, Madam Mayor, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Anne Gay, please.
Thank you, Chair. Sorry, my hand was raised in relation to Councillor Wyn David's discussion. So if I understand correctly, councillors will be given the opportunity to debate the energy supply in a future date. That's correct.
I believe that is the case. Thank you, Councillor.
Thank
you. Councillor Graham Simmons, please. Councillor Simmons, are you there? Are you on mute?
Sorry about that.
That's okay.
Yeah, I'd like to put into context the
that fact that this is a no cuts budget. Last year we consulted on a fully budgeted balanced budget with a zero assumption of a zero revenue uplift. In the effect, Sadiq Khan, through the Welsh Assembly, give us £11 million, and we still raise revenue, still raise council tax by, I think it was 3.95% or £3.5 million. Just to put into context, last year was the year that we should be cheering a zero budget when we had an unexpected £11 million. This year, we've got 9. Let's look at it from the perspective of the people of the county borough, those who are working from home, those who have children at home because of the schools being closed. They have possibly extra childcare, they have to feed the children, they have additional heating. Furloughs, layoffs and job losses all contribute to the weekly and the annual budget of households, and people are struggling. When Mr. Harris says about the 4-year necessity to save £21 million, now from memory, when we had the budget meeting a few months back, we'd already had underspends of £30 million in our revenue, and I believe it was 91 million in the capital programme. Just a sec. Yeah. When we congratulated the Welsh Assembly, the local authorities' total revenue uplift this year amounts to some 4.7 billion. That's an increase of 172 billion. So Caerphilly, on average, is just above the average for Wales. And against that background, I know Councillor Mann has got a notice of motion pending. I would also like to add one, that we review on the basis of a zero uplift for this 1 year only because of the coronavirus pandemic. And trust me, as a sufferer, it's not a pleasant thing to see and all go through. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Simmons.
I can't cancel it.
That's okay. I'll come back to you later once we've finished. Okay.
Yep.
Councillor Kevin Etheridge, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd like to just say a few things here. I'm disappointed actually with the political football stance of the parties in regarding this. You know, we do need to try and work together. It does seem to me that it's transformation agenda versus hardship and poverty. I appreciate we've had the debate on the transformation agenda, and that's been agreed. Huge sums of money were spent on the agenda, which I've got concerns, and I would like to echo Councillor Simmons's comments. I'd like to say that, you know, couldn't we divert a proportion of this cost to the reduction further of council tax? I appreciate the answer will probably be no, because you said the transformation agenda is of speed and essence. But I've got concerns here, Madam Mayor, for our communities. Insolvencies are over 12,000 and they're rising. Food banks are on the increase. Debt worries and unemployment is significantly higher than it was. Many businesses are struggling and holding it together, and so are many residents. And I feel that for this year only, we should consider a nil increase in the council tax. The questions will be, where will we get the money from, Councillor Etheridge? As I've said, I'm disappointed that the transformation agenda is going full scale ahead. But I believe, you know, the pandemic, you know, this is a exceptional, unique year, which has been for everyone, and it just throws more people into hardship. But as I said, I will be seconding Councillor Simmons's amendment. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Etheridge. I will come back to you. Councillor Martin James, please.
Oh, thank you, Mayor.
Councillor James, can I just stop you there? I've made an error. Can I just call Mr. Harrison to speak before I call you? Thank you.
Yeah, that's okay. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, sorry, Councillor James. Same as I did earlier with Councillor Mann, I do just need to point out that if there was a 0% uplift in the council tax, that would leave a gap of around £2.5 million that we would need to deal with. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Harrison. Sorry, my apologies for that. Councillor James, please, we'll try again. Sorry.
Yes, okay. Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm looking at the education budget really, and the money is going to be spent on Trinity Fields expansion. It's going to be built on 30% of green space in Ystrad Mynach. Now, the cost of this is 12.5 million. Yet there's exactly the same school being built, or near enough the same, in Penarth. Our school is only going to be for 80 places. The school in Penarth is going to be for 160 children on a different site, on a brownfield site, a site they've got to buy, and it's going to be built for 11 million. Now, we haven't got a good record on getting budgets right in actually main projects. We overspent on the WHQS and we overspent on the Caerphilly roundabout by considerable amounts of money. So,
Councillor James,
yeah.
I believe that this is not in tonight's report to be discussed, and there will be an opportunity to discuss this at a later date.
It's in the budget to show that how much money is being spent in the education budget. It's not
specific to Trinity Fields, I believe.
It's, well, how much money is being spent? Yes, how much my question is, you know, what costings have we done to make sure that the figures we are being given are correct figures? Because our history shows we are very poor. That, you know.
Can I have a point of order, Madam Mayor, please? Can I have a point of order? Councillor James, I've already been told this is not for debate tonight. He's going off at a tangent, and you already said it's not for debate. So I suggest now you tell Councillor James that is your command. Thank you.
Do you want to come back on that, Mayor? It is in the report. It is in the report.
So, can I bring Mr. Harris? Can I bring Mr. Harris in, please? Thank you.
Yeah, just to clarify, the specific proposal in respect of the proposed expansion of Trinity Fields is not in this report. It is subject to a separate consultation process, and I believe that a further report is due to be presented to the relevant scrutiny committees later in March.
Thank you, Mr. Harris. Councillor James?
Well, I'll accept that if you want, Madam Mayor. The council will have to come up with the answers at the right time. So,
Madam Mayor, can I point of order again? Can I please have a move progress, please? You've had his answer. Can you please move progress?
We are going to move on now, Councillor Priest. Thank you both. Councillor Cook, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I think I'm having some issues with my camera. Sorry. Yeah, Councillor Mann has just asked Labour members, where is their social consciousness? Well, I want to let Councillor Mann know that my social consciousness is voting for a budget that protects the vulnerable in our society. For example, our in-house care home delivering 16,465 house care calls and Heart delivering 3,500 hours of emergency and domiciliary care. Can I ask Councillor Mann where his social conscience is by not voting for this budget which protects the vulnerable?
Thank you, Councillor Cook. Councillor Mann, do you want to respond now?
I'm just wondering where I proposed social services cuts, Madam Mayor. I don't believe I did.
Okay, thank you. We'll move on to Councillor Pritchard. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor, and I just want to make a few comments, basically on some of the positive things that are in this report, and there are quite a few positive things. So I'm just going to touch on two really. I mean, the first one is Caerphilly Cares. You know, as a member of the buddy scheme, I know several members of council were members of that scheme. I'm really pleased to see that the continuation of the service into something different. You know, it's been raised this evening about, you know, where's your social conscience? We've got to protect the vulnerable. I would argue wholeheartedly that this budget does protect the vulnerable, because I don't think you get many more vulnerable and isolated people are those who went through the buddy scheme. And I think the Caerphilly Cares is really going to work wonders for those. Also, the Community Empowerment Fund. I mean, I went up to Bryn Kenneth in my ward today. We're going to have some projects going on there from tomorrow, actually. And this is really important, I think, for sort of grassroots stuff, investing in the community, but getting the community to use the money, you know, so they can benefit their own community with the support of councillors. And it's not the council coming and doing things for residents, it's about residents making the best of the resources available to them. You know, if you were to vote against this budget tonight, you would be voting against the Community Empowerment Fund. One councillor said yesterday, I think it was Councillor John Roberts, and I totally agree with what he said. He said that this is a good scheme and perhaps it should actually be increased. Not a bad suggestion at all. But you know, finally, if I just end on this point, I mean, Caerphilly Unison have put out a statement today in which they absolutely condemn the Plaid Group for actually their stance on teachers' pay. Now, I want to stand foursquare with the trade unions, and I don't want to see motions going forward that actually reduce the pay award. So I'll be voting for the budget, and I would ask members to vote against, obviously, the Plaid Cymru amendment and the independent amendment. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Pritchard. Can I call on Councillor Dix, please?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. Just two points really for the officer, if he could. As we're all aware, the council over recent years has spent £4 million on the senior officer pay, plus 2.1 million on non-disclosure orders for senior officers when they leave the council. That's from my reckoning, nearly £6 million just over. Just for the officer, if he confirmed that those sums of money were paid out, 4 million on senior officer pay in the last couple of years, and 2.1 million on non-disclosure orders for 33, I believe, senior officers who left employment with the council. And I just believe that had that money, and I'd like to confirm this, that money would have been better used in budgets and the resources for the people who actually we serve in this county borough. And if that had been done, maybe we wouldn't have been looking at such a big rise tonight. It's for the officer, if you would, please.
Thank you, Councillor Dix. Mr. Harris, please.
Yeah, members have received numerous reports on the cost of the senior pay investigation, and details of the cost of that have been shared, as I say, on numerous occasions. So I've got nothing further to add on that one. In relation to other settlement agreements, I'm not able to confirm the figure this evening, but again, those settlement agreements would have been done through a due process. These are one-off costs, so moving forward, they would not support the revenue budget on a recurring basis. Those costs are sunk, and they would not be available on an annual basis to support the budget. So I can confirm that the 4 million or thereabouts in respect of the senior pay, the 2.1 million, I'm not able to confirm that at the moment, but all of those costs are disclosed in the council's financial statements every year. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Harris. Thank you, Councillor Dix. Councillor Bob Owen, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yeah, I just got a question for Stephen Harris, and it's with respect to, obviously we set the council tax. You know, I know we haven't actually voted on it yet, but it's been in the domain now for quite a while. And I believe then that after that, there was additional funding made available by the Welsh Government in the region of 5.5 million for council tax across the authorities in Wales. So I just wanted to clarify if if I got this right, and that was the case, of what amount of that money did we get? Because if we did get any, and we'd already set our council tax, that technically would have been a surplus, which possibly could be used to drop the council tax percentage. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Owen. Mr Harris, would you like to respond to that one, please?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. Yes, Councillor Owen, you are right. There was an additional 5.5 million made available across Wales. That was directly linked to pressures on the council tax reduction scheme. A number of authorities have seen increases in demand on that budget, so that was made available to support authorities with the additional costs on the council tax reduction scheme. Caerphilly's share of that was just over £300,000. We can't use that to lower the council tax, and even if we were in a position where we could, again, it would only be a short-term measure that we could apply in the current year, and any loss then of council tax receipts would not be in the base budget moving forward. But just to clarify, that funding was for the council tax reduction scheme. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Mr Harris. Councillor Owen, are you okay with that?
Yeah, I brought up about the council tax reduction scheme when we discussed this in an earlier meeting, and obviously I was saying, was there any way that we could balance things out? So there is £300,000 there. I mean, I know that's not massive in terms of what sort of reduction that could bring, but if it's £300,000, surely it can be put into the figures somewhere to help reduce the tax across the authority. But that's all I've got to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr Harris, please.
Yeah, just to clarify with members, I will be proposing that if that funding is not utilised in the current year, that we do ring fence it and we carry it forward into the new financial year, because clearly I think we all anticipate with things like the furlough scheme ending, etc., we may see further pressures on the council tax reduction scheme budget. So it would be prudent to carry forward any sums not utilised to help us with that increased demand as we move into the new financial year. Thank you, Mad.
Thank you, Mr Harris. Councillor Teresa Parry, please.
Well, thank you very much, Madam Mayor. Just want to clarify something. I think there's a fundamental misunderstanding of the Plaid's proposal. We're not proposing any cuts. We're just saying that this budget can be delivered on a lower council tax increase. As many of the councillors here know, that many of our residents in all the wards are now accessing food banks, food charities, just to make sure that their children and they are able to eat. This 4% extra is a huge increase to their budgets. Like Councillor Mann said, it's probably one of the highest bills that they have. Now, regarding our Section 151 officer, Steve, thank you for clarifying a few things. You said this, Councillor Mann's proposal could go ahead, but possibly there would be a knock-on effect for future years. Well, this ring-fenced 300k from the council tax reduction scheme, you're going to just ring-fence it for another year, or future years. I think this year is a crucial year in, with the COVID going on and with everything else that these poor residents are having to put up with, businesses going bust, people being made redundant, people still on furlough. And I think now is the time that we should have a reduction and not a 4%. This authority can afford to give the budget with a lower council tax. And I think really, in all fairness, I think you should have come up with a lower figure in the first place. And I am quite disappointed that you haven't taken that in. Even Councillor Stennard said that it is a real concern of hers, and yet still we're looking at 3.9%. I'm disappointed. I'm hoping that councillors feel the same, that our residents shouldn't have to go through extra burden for this year. Let's look at next year, but this year we need to have the reduction. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Parry. Would Councillor Stenner or Mr Harris like to come back to that, please?
I mean, clearly the council tax level is a political matter, but you know, some of the options that are being proposed, I'll repeat what I said earlier, they are short-term in nature. They won't support the Financial Resiliency Authority moving forward. With reference to the additional money for the council tax reduction scheme, I believe the proposal to ring-fence that will help vulnerable residents in the county borough, because as I said, we expect the impact of the pandemic to continue into the next financial year. Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you, Mr Harris. Councillor Sean Morgan, please.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Mayor. It's good to hear such interesting and varied views on this budget. As the annual budget, in my mind, I think it's the most important report of the year. It's the report that puts your money where your mouth is, so to speak. Because this budget puts the necessary capacity in the organisation to really take the transformation, commercialisation and place shaping plans forward. I'm very surprised to hear Councillor Kevin Etheridge talk against the transformation plans in such a negative manner. His fellow councillor, Councillor Simmons, sits on the Regeneration Board and is well aware that the Regeneration Board has spent approximately £1.5 million worth of council money. And that £1.5 million leveraged in over £95 million worth of investment into the borough. We've recently talked about the report this morning, the place shaping plan, where this budget has now set aside approximately £30 million. And I did question the Chief Executive on this today, where Christina did say that it is likely to leverage in £285 million. Well, going on past experience, I did question the conservative estimate of £285 million, and going on the past work that has been done, it's likely to bring in more like 500 million to £1 billion worth of investment into this borough. And when you bring investment like that, you bring in jobs, you bring in apprenticeships, you bring in careers. The type of investment that is desperately needed. Councillor Simmons of the Independents constantly talks about GVA. This is the budget that brings in that brings that promise. This budget is planning for success, is planning for growth, is planning for a much more positive, sustainable and resilient future for our staff. This organisation, and more importantly, it's for the residents of this borough. Look, we've already achieved so much over the past few years. Even with dwindling budgets, we managed to build new schools, reduce carbon emissions, create new sporting facilities, increase active travel, and build upon the strength of our green infrastructure. This council, you know, we're talking about COVID and the most vulnerable in society. This council has been exemplary in the way it's handled the COVID pandemic. This is why our free school meals rollout became a spotlight of national importance and national interest. But these things don't happen by accident. They happen through vision, ambition, and an understanding of the direction that public services need to go in order to deliver the best for its people. I would like to offer my thanks to the Cabinet and the leadership team who have been intrinsic in developing this budget. I think at this point, I would also like to put on record my thanks to the former leader, Councillor Dave Poole, who understood the need for change and put the building blocks in place during 2017, 18 and 19, which set us on the road of transformation, a transformation which is enabled by this budget. So I would urge everyone here tonight to support this budget and the promise of a better future it brings. I'm surprised that Councillor Mann's call for a reduction in the council tax increase from a council which already has one of the lowest council taxes in Wales and is indeed some £500 per household lower than some of our immediate neighbours. When I'm talking about our immediate neighbours, I'm talking about Merthyr and Blaenau Gwent. On a Band D basis, they are both somewhere in the region of £500 more per year. So Caerphilly Council's budget, Caerphilly Council's council tax is already very, very low by comparison. Councillor Mann and Plaid Cymru's call for a reduction. The Independents call for a 0%. This is a call for stagnation. It's negative and pessimistic. I mean, at the place shaping plan on Monday, it was Councillor Mann's colleague, Councillor James Fussell, who called the idea of the possibility of the third sector coming in and building a high quality hotel in Caerphilly with the Caerphilly Castle there. He called that idea pie in the sky. Now that is
point of order, Madam Mayor.
That is
point
lacking
of order,
in
Madam
vision.
Mayor.
That is pessimistic.
Point of order, Madam Mayor.
Okay. Can I have some advice, please, Mr. Chancellor?
I think you'll find, Councillor Morgan, if you check the record, that my colleague did not say that. He was quoting somebody else.
If I can interject, I am online. I am listening.
You're on mute, Councillor Fussell.
Yeah, thanks for allowing me to come in. I understand, not that I've listened to the cabinet meeting this afternoon, but your same diatribe of what I was saying the other day is totally incorrect. I said that there was a Welsh tourism official at a meeting in March 2019 who conferred at that meeting that idea of a hotel, 4-star hotel, mind you, which was the aspiration, was totally pie in the sky. I couldn't wait to have such a development, a prestige development that with the planning that was put forward initially, well, not planning, but outlined designs. And I'd like you to fully retract your statement, both now and for what you said at the cabinet meeting.
Certainly, Councillor Fussell. I'm sorry that I misinterpreted what you said, and obviously I have misinterpreted.
Sometimes, Councillor Morgan.
I did consider that you were sharing that point of view. If you wasn't sharing that point of view with the gentleman, then therefore I'm sorry, and I retract it from both meetings.
Why would you think I'd imply that I would have that view? It's something that Caerphilly would desperately want, and you're only using it for political gain more than anything else.
Councillors,
you can ill do without that. So the best thing you could do is use your 2 years first of all.
Point of order,
Councillors, can we draw it to a close, please?
Yeah, thanks. I have made an apology. I do apologise, Councillor Fussell, if I misinterpreted what you said. It was an easy mistake to make, I think.
No, not really. If you were listening to the debate.
So
thank you both. Thank you both. Can we move on?
What I would therefore go on to say, if I could finish what I was saying, would be that a vote against this budget, especially at the time when the COVID pandemic is impacting on everybody so negatively, to vote against this budget would be voting against a better, more optimistic future. It would be a vote against a pathway out of these negative times. It would be a vote against prosperity, productivity and well-being. And I urge you all to support this budget year tonight. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Morgan. Can I call Councillor Steve Evans, please?
Thanks, Madam Mayor.
Just one point on what Councillor Morgan just said. The place shaping project is aspirational. We have not got any hard costed objectives yet to be defined. So just to make that point. But my question is that there's been much heralding this evening on the protection of jobs, which I totally support and agree with, because the public in a time of pandemic are turning to their public sector more than ever. But can I just have clarity on what has been the reduction in posts since the commencement of the current administration, and what are the percentage of jobs which have been held as long-term vacancies since this administration started? Because that does figure greatly in the levels of service we can offer. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Can I call Mrs. Harry on that one, please? Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm afraid I don't have those figures to hand, but I can certainly circulate those figures to members on email. I can confirm, though, that there have been reductions in the staffing figures across the organisation. And as the Section 151 has already articulated this evening, the aim of this budget that is sat in front of you this evening is to protect the posts that we have in order to continue delivering the levels of services that we are currently able to do and which are indeed valued so much by our public. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Harry. Councillor Graham Simmons, please.
Thank you. Excuse me. I will be quick. I was going to interject a little bit of caution into Councillor Morgan's enthusiasm for the upcoming investment. We've just had 20 years of structural funding, and our GVA has fallen by about 6%. Same with GDP. It's just the last figures I had were 52.8% GVA and just brushing 50% GDP. So we've had access to £10.5 billion worth of structural funding. We've had the full benefit of the 5 counties regeneration strategy. We're now in second or third year of the Cardiff City deal, which is 1.2 billion. I'd be interested in figures that will support the effect of the investment from there. And well, in short, it's far better to look at outcomes, look at wishful thoughts. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Simmons. Your comments are noted. Can I call Councillor Colin Gordon, please?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. I'm listening to the debate with great interest, but let's all be honest. If we had set the budget at 2.4%, Plaid Cymru and Independents would vote against it. It doesn't matter what the percentage is, they would vote against it. And if they vote against it tonight, and I think they probably will, because they haven't voted for one in the last 9 years, they will be voting against a £2.5 million increase in social services, a £1.5 million increase in education. Tell the public what they think of our vulnerable people in Caerphilly County and what they think of our children's education. I hope the press, if they're here tonight, are taking note. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Gordon. And Councillor Adams, please.
Just very quickly, Madam Mayor, just to remind us all, including Councillor Simmons, we've had 10 years of UK government austerity that he doesn't seem to think has had any effect on whatever we've been trying to do. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Can I return to Councillor Mann, please?
Pay for structural funding annually.
Okay, Councillor Mann, I'll come back to you. Councillor Binding has just raised his hands. We'll just deal with that and then I'll come back to you for your amendment, okay? Thank you. Councillor Binding, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just a quick question for Councillor Stenner. As much as been lauded about the budget, and it would be remiss of me to thank the officers for the budget, even if I fundamentally disagree in the direction and do support Councillor Mann's proposal. a lot has been lauded around the securing of the current workforce and how this budget is helping to do that. So can I ask Councillor Stenner, are they given a guarantee that with the continued Labour administration term, that there will be no further job cuts at all to the payroll within this council? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Binding. Councillor Stenner, please.
Unfortunately, Councillor Binding, we can't give any guarantees, especially going further along to next year's budget. But we will do our utmost to protect all jobs within this authority.
Thank you, Councillor Stenner.
Thank you to Councillor Stenner for that answer.
Thank you, Councillor Binding. And lastly, Councillor Soralis, before I return to Councillor Mann.
Yes, just briefly, before you go to Councillor Mann, I think if we go to Councillor Mann and ask him for an amendment, we'll be out of order. We already have an amendment before us that was put by Councillor Simmons and seconded by Councillor Kevin Etheridge, I believe, and I believe that amendment will have to come first, and Councillor Colin Mann will have to give notice of a further amendment, which would happen after we've decided on the outcome of what is before us already. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
I don't think that's correct, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Soralis. I'm just taking some advice from Mr. Tranter. Hold on a second, please. Thank you.
Yes, Madam Mayor, perhaps I'll say it so that all the councillors can hear. I must admit, Councillor Soralis, I didn't hear Councillor Simmons' amendment. I don't know what that amendment is. I recorded that he just said that he would like to bring an amendment, and he will bring an amendment in due course. But if he's brought the amendment and it's been seconded, I must admit I missed that. But perhaps if Councillor Graham Simmons can confirm whether he's introduced his amendment yet, or if he hasn't, then I suggest you deal with Councillor Mann's amendment first, deal with that, and then deal with Councillor Simmons' amendment. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you,
I thought he said a zero budget increase, and then that was seconded by Kevin Etheridge. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Adams. Councillor Simmons, can I clarify with you whether you brought your amendment before Councillor Mann, please?
Well, I was under the impression that I'd said a zero uplift, yes.
Okay. Okay, we will deal with that one first then, please. Hang on a second. Harris, please.
Yeah, can I just clarify? I quoted the shortfall there of 2.5 million. The 0% uplift, the net impact would be 2.206 million. The reason for that is we always assume an element of growth of households in our council tax calculation. So just to clarify, it's 2.206 million, and any amendment that's put forward would need to include a proposal for funding that shortfall.
Thank you, Mr. Harris. I've got Councillor Pritchard's hand raised now.
Yeah, it was just to follow on from what Steve Harris said. He's quoted the figure of 2.206 million. Obviously, if the independents wish, my understanding is if they wish to put forward that amendment, which they're going to do, they've got to come up with the finance appropriate. So if I could ask for further clarification on if that's definitely the case, because otherwise, if the amendment goes forward, the council would be in a position where they're 2.206 in deficit, and who would decide on where the axe would fall after that. So if I could get some clarity on that, please.
Thank you, Councillor Pritchard. Councillor Simmons, then, can you reply to that, please?
Yes, certainly. 2 years ago, I supplied the council an alternate budget. I sent it to 73 councillors and every senior manager that was on the list. I didn't receive one response. It was glossed over in council, and it was just a waste of time. So I haven't done it since, and anyway, I've been in hospital. But besides that, okay, if you want a suggestion, we have somewhere between 18 months and 2 years, we've been waiting for the registry of services. If Mr. Harris wishes to bring forward that register of services, I'm fairly sure that I can raise 2.4 or 2.2 million in a matter of hours. Thank you.
Mayor, can I ask for some assistance on that? There's no opportunity for Mr. Harris to bring forward his view on what needs to be done. This will have to come from the mover of the motion, which is Councillor Simmons. You know, I think we need to be serious about this now. You know, this can't obviously go forward without the finance available, I would argue.
Can I please repeat? If Councillor Pritchard will listen, I have been waiting between 18 months and 2 years for the Registry of Services. I have still not got it in my possession. Any financial potential savings, I believe, will come from that register.
Madam Mayor.
Yes, Councillor Morgan. Mr. Harris would like to respond to Councillor Simmons. Is that okay? Thank you.
If I could come in later. Thank you.
Yes.
Yeah, I believe Councillor Simmons is referring to the service directory, which was an element of the action plan on the transformation programme. That work progressed to a point. It was quite well advanced, but obviously other priorities have taken over in the last year or so. We will be bringing that forward in due course, but I'll repeat, what we need tonight is a firm proposal to fund the shortfall of 2.206 million.
Thank you, Mr. Harris. Councillor Morgan.
Madam Mayor, thank you very much for allowing me back in to respond, because I would just like to say that Councillor Simmons often bandies about great figures. He just said that if he could see this, he could quite easily save a few £1 million in no time. I would remind Councillor Simmons that we are still waiting. I believe it was the 2019 budget where he said he could save this council £26 million. I have repeatedly asked him for that information. Surely he's denying the residents of this borough, if he knows how to save them £26 million, then he needs to talk to us. I'm open for that discussion at any time he likes.
That was presented to council about 2 years ago, and it was sent out on email to all councillors and senior managers. Not one response.
Because it didn't make the savings, because it was an impossible thing to deliver.
With little bits and pieces. They all crack their ribs.
Okay. Councillors, members, please.
Point of order.
Can we have Councillor Mann? Who's calling for a point of order?
Councillor Kevin Etheridge.
Right, okay. What is your point of order?
Are we refusing? Is the council now refusing the independence amendment? Thank you.
No, Councillor Etheridge. I will finish the discussion and we will move to the vote.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Mann, please. Your hand is raised.
Thank you, Mayor. You did invite me earlier to answer a couple of points that have been made. Is this the right time to do it? I think it should be.
Can we stick to the amendment, and then once we've dealt with the amendments, we can
this comes in the it won't take a minute, Madam Mayor. I was asked where our social conscience is, and two members touched on that. Could I just repeat a sentence from the statement that I made earlier, which is on public record? We fully support giving our employees proper pay rises, but the sum included is more than is realistically needed. That is exactly what I said. We're not voting against any of this. We just say that the provision in there is too generous. I hope that now clarifies that for the members who are confused.
Thank you, Councillor Mann. Does anybody else want to say anything on Councillor Simmons' amendment, please? No? Then I will...
Yeah.
Sorry,
Chair. I nearly came in with a point of order, but if you're going to come into a meeting like this with a proposal, it should have been, and it was going to change the figures, it should have been costed before attending the meeting.
Move
to the vote.
Third time.
Members, can we move to the vote then, please? Thank you. I'll hand over to Mr. Chanter. Thank you.
Yes, Thank you, Madam Mayor. Okay, members, there is an amendment before you. It's an amendment that's come from Councillor Graham Simmons and has been seconded by Councillor Kevin Etheridge. So
point of order, please, Madam Mayor. Madam Mayor, can I come in there? Can I have a point of order? There's been so much to-ing and fro-ing. Can I please have the amendment as it was said, please, before we take the vote?
Okay.
Yes, Councillor Priest. Do you do that, Mr. Chanter, or do I hand it back to Councillor Simmons?
No, I'll have a go at doing it,
Okay.
if I may, Madam Mayor. Councillor Simmons, if I've got this wrong, no doubt you will correct me. But the amendment that's being proposed by Councillor Simmons is a 0% increase in council tax. I think that's what the amendment is, and that's what the amendment that members will be voting upon. So
can I thank you, Madam Mayor, and Mr. Tractor for that information. Thank you very much.
So you'll have a poll in front of you now, members, or you shortly will do, which will allow you to vote on the amendment. We can just wait a few seconds, please, and it will come before you. And there it is, by magic. So 60 seconds, please, members. For, against, or abstain, please. No.
Just do a shortcut for speaking. You just press and hold down. Okay, thank you.
Okay, members, normal protocol here then. Has anybody had any difficulties voting? If so, can you now speak?
Yes,
Oliver?
yes, I have again, Mr. Tranter.
Okay.
And Councillor Jeremiah.
Okay, so Councillor James, how would you like to vote?
Against.
Against the amendment, okay. Councillor Jeremiah?
Against.
Against, okay. Councillor Oliver?
Against.
Okay, thank you. Any other members have any other difficulty? Okay, there we are. Thank you, members. So, Madam Mayor, the amendment has been lost. 5 for, 49 against, 2 abstentions, and 3 against orally with me then. So the abstention the amendment is lost. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Chant. Before I return to Councillor Mann, Councillor Gordon, you have your hand raised, please.
Yeah, only quickly, Mayor. I'd just like to remind members here this evening that there's only one chair in this meeting this evening, that's the Mayor. And lots of people have shouted out point of order. A point of order is a legal challenge to what's been said. I don't think after the things that have been said there have been legal challenges. They just seem to shout out point of order at any time. It's disrupting the meeting. Just listen to the chair, give her respect.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Mann, please.
Oh, thank you, Madam Mayor. It wouldn't unmute to start with. I'd like to move the following amendment.
Chair, Madam Mayor, can I move a point of order? It's a point of order on procedure. Councillor Mann has not given notice of a further amendment, and therefore the only thing that can be put forward now is the proposal. He shook his head last time, but I think it was the information I said as a point of order was correct. He has not given notice of a further amendment. We have had an amendment that has been voted for. That was the only amendment that was put forward. And now we go back to the motion, which is for a 3.9% budget.
Thank you, Councillor Sorrells. We'll take some advice from Mr. Tranter, please.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, Councillor Sorrells, Councillor Mann can now bring forward an amendment. We deal with one amendment at a time. You're quite right. The substantive motion now before you is the original budget, but shortly, I'm sure, we're going to hear another amendment from Councillor Mann. There will then be a debate on that amendment. If members want to debate that amendment, we will then have a vote on that amendment. Depending on whether or not the amendment is lost or carried, then that will become the substantive motion. So we are back now waiting for Councillor Mann's amendment, please. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
So could I just question that, Mr. Tranter, that Councillor Mann was not required to give notice of a further amendment? Because he hasn't done so.
He can give, when he made his speech on the debate on the original budget, okay, the substantive motion, he said that he would be bringing an amendment. So we can now deal with that amendment.
But the amendment was made, Mr. Tranter. We had an amendment and we voted on it.
We have voted on Councillor Simmons' amendment. We are now going to vote on Councillor Mann's amendment, or when Councillor Mann brings his amendment.
Okay, I'll accept that. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Councillor Mann, please.
Thank you, Mr. Tranter. Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'll try again. I'd like to move the following amendment, please. That this council implements changes to the budget proposals in order to save £849,000, which would enable the council tax rise to be reduced to 2.4%. This can be done by considering the following areas: reducing the amount allowed for future pay rises, and that could be something like £500,000. Going back to the original plan for some members of the transformation team to go back to the original terms, and that could save upwards of £200,000. And I also mentioned in my original speech about the shortfall on the industrial property rents, which was, I think, 177,000, if I recall correctly. And we could also consider some of the excess funds held in the general fund. There is currently 1.232 million higher than we are often told is necessary. And could I just say, before concluding, Madam Mayor, that several Labour members compare us with Blaenau Gwent and Merthyr as far as council tax is concerned. I'm very pleased that I don't live in either of those boroughs as far as council tax is concerned. They don't seem to remember that Newport Bandy at the moment is 1,198, which is only a few pounds different to Caerphilly. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Mann. Councillor Johnson, you've got your hand. Okay, I'll come back to you, Councillor Johnson. I've been directed to look for a seconder to Councillor Mann's amendment, please.
I'd like to second, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Parry. Councillor Johnson, please, would you like to speak on the amendment before we move to the vote?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Mayor. I couldn't just sit here as a trade union official and say nothing about a fellow so-called socialist turn around saying that we shouldn't be allowing as much money for pay rises for our staff and our teachers who throughout this pandemic has been at the forefront of it, making sure the kids get the school meals, making sure our most vulnerable are cared for, we get the deliveries of the parcels and the medicines, and Councillor Mann thinks what we are leaving aside to give them as pay rises is too much. I find I'm not arguing against they are entitled to put the proposals, and 2.4 I'm not arguing against that there. But I think his comments on where he's getting that money from is an absolute disgrace. That's my opinion, Mr. Mayor, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Johnson. Councillor John Taylor, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I think some members are under a misapprehension. Colin Mann's amendment doesn't say that we won't have any money to pay any pay increases. Colin Mann has said that the budget proposals we have is putting too much to that for what is the likely increases that are going to be awarded this year. And so we're not trying to deny anybody any rightful pay increase, but we think it's a sensible thing to be more realistic with what we're setting aside. And there are plenty of things in what Councillor Mann has said in his amendment that could help pay for a lower increase in council tax, because as we've all been saying, everybody is suffering during this pandemic, and that everybody is under increased pressure, and there are lots of people who are just above the levels of getting help with things like council tax relief, and we feel that it's important that those people are looked after as well. It does not mean that we're against looking after the most vulnerable in our communities, and it doesn't mean that we're against our staff having pay rises. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Taylor. Councillor Carl Cuss, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Can I call for a recorded vote, please, so that the names are published or voted for and against Councillor Mann's amendment, please? Thank you.
Mr. Chanter, please.
Thank you. Councillor Cuss, you can certainly ask for a recorded vote. In order to ask for a recorded vote, you need the support of 9 other members to do that.
I'll second that.
If I could just say that we do publish how members have voted after the meeting. That doesn't in any way stop you from asking for a recorded vote, but the information will be in the public domain. So regardless of a recorded vote, the information will be there, but it is entirely up to you whether to ask for a recorded vote. As I say, if you wish to do so, you must have the support of 9 other members. The matter is entirely with you, Councillor Cuss. Thank you.
I'll second that, Madam Mayor.
And I'll vote for it.
And I'll support it, Madam Mayor.
And I'll support it.
And I'm quite happy to support that as well, Madam Mayor. Councillor Binding.
Councillor Pritchard, yeah.
Councillor Davis, yes.
Councillor Leonard, yes.
Councillor Barbara Jones, yes.
Councillor John Taylor, yes.
Councillor Heavy, yes.
Okay, thank you, members. So we'll do a recorded vote when we get to the vote. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Councillor Morgan, please.
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. I am really confused with this. I don't understand how we can give a pay rise to staff if that is the outcome of negotiations. If we haven't put the money in the budget, how do we then pay the staff? I think Councillor Mann and Councillor Taylor are both trying to say that that is possible. Don't put the money into the budget, but we'll still pay them. I don't understand that.
Thank you, Councillor Morgan. Councillor Mann, yes.
If those who read the report will see there's more than £2 million in that budget. We are suggesting that a small part of that that money is not actually put into the budget. It's a forecast. It's an estimate of possible pay rises, and nobody knows at this moment what they're going to be, if any. So we just feel there's more in there than is needed.
Thank you, Councillor Mann. So what you're saying is that the Plaid Cymru group are preempting the lowest possible rise
move the matter
for the education.
No, I'm not saying that at all. You're deliberately misinterpreting my words.
Thank you. Can I call Councillor Pritchard, please?
Sorry, Madam Mayor, but someone has moved that the matter be put, and you have to put that now as a procedural motion.
Can I please come in, Mayor? I've got an important point to make.
Sorry, no, I moved that the matter be put, and it needs...
Hold on a second, please. Hang on. Can I take advice from Mr. Tranter, please?
There's only one chair here this evening, Chair.
Yeah.
Remind them.
So members...
Yes, and that chair has to obey standing orders. And I'm only pointing it out, that's all.
I think that, bearing in mind there are only 2 more councillors who want to speak on this amendment, that council ought to allow that, and then we will go to a recorded vote on Councillor Mann's amendment. Thank you.
Well,
Thank you,
with
Mr.
respect,
Tranter.
That advice, Madam Mayor.
Thank you,
is
Mr. Tranter. And
against
if I'm allowed to make my point, I'd just like to bring members back to what the leader said in her opening statement, really, in terms of the pay negotiations. These are clearly ongoing, and that the trade union are in for a 10% pay increase. That's what they're looking for. I want to stress again that Caerphilly Unison, let's not forget the biggest trade union within Caerphilly, thousands of members in Caerphilly Borough have strongly condemned what is going to be put forward today from the Plaid Cymru motion. And I would ask everybody to bear in mind the union's position on this. And if we want to be voting against what the trade union are doing, I think we're going down a very, very slippery slope.
Thank you, Councillor Pritchard. And Councillor Sorales, please.
I think really that Councillor Mann has got a solution. It's probably similar to the one that the Prime Minister used at the time that the nurses were appealing for a pay rise. He gave them a round of applause almost every night. Well done.
Thank you, Councillor Sorales. Can I hand it over to Mr. Tranter for the vote, please?
Madam Mayor, I believe I have a right to reply.
Okay, I'm sorry, I've missed Councillor Davis. So if we take him first, and then we'll come back to Councillor Priest and Councillor Mann.
I just made a point of
sorry
order.
to keep jumping in. I did move the matter be put, which is a procedural thing.
Right.
You're allowing, you said 2 people, or Mr. Tranter said 2 extra people. You've had 2, now there's a 3rd. Colin wants to come back again. I must insist that the matter be put.
Mr. Tranter, please.
And that's the point I was making, Madam Mayor.
That's a procedural motion.
Okay, if someone's moved that, Madam Mayor, then it can be put. So we'll now move to a vote.
Don't
Okay,
I have
then.
a right to reply, Mr. Tranter?
I don't think you do, Councillor Mann, in that someone has asked for the matter to be put now, so we will go to a vote. Thank you.
The debate is out of order, otherwise.
Oh.
Okay, I'm advised that we'll move to the vote. Mr. Tranter, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Members, we are now going to a recorded vote, so I will call out each of your names. You will respond to me for, against, and or abstain, please. Okay, you are voting on Councillor Mann's amendment. Okay, so just to be clear, it's Councillor Mann's amendment. So I will start. Councillor Adams.
I'm disappointed we haven't a vote that is recorded properly and in the press. Obviously against. Obviously against.
Councillor Aldworth.
Against.
Councillor Andrews.
Before I pass my vote, can I just ask people to silence their microphones? There is some echoing. Thank you. Against, Mr. Tranter.
Thank you. Councillor Angel.
For.
Councillor Bevan. John Bevan. Councillor John Bevan. Okay.
He gave his apologies.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Councillor Phil Bevan.
For.
Councillor Bazina. Councillor Bazina. Okay. I'll move on. Councillor Binding.
For the amendment.
Councillor Collis.
Against.
Councillor Cook.
Against.
Councillor Cushing. Thank you. Councillor Cass.
Against?
Councillor David?
Again. Oh, no. Sam Mike Davis? Yeah.
Councillor
For.
David?
For.
Councillor Wynne David?
Oh, sorry.
No. Councillor Mike Davis?
For.
Councillor Tudor Davis?
Against.
Councillor Dawson?
Against.
Councillor Dix?
Abstain.
Councillor Ellsbury?
For the motion.
Councillor Etheridge? Councillor Etheridge? Councillor Evans?
Against, Rob, sorry. My mute button, it went offline.
Okay, so against, Councillor Etheridge, thank you. Councillor Evans?
Against.
Councillor Farina Childs?
Against.
Councillor Christine Forehead? No. Councillor Elaine Forehead? No. Councillor Fussell? No. Councillor Gay? Councillor Gale? Okay. Councillor George?
Against.
Councillor Gordon?
As a trade unionist, against.
Councillor Goff?
For.
Councillor Hardacre?
Against.
Councillor Harding?
Against.
Councillor Haas? Councillor Haas? Councillor Havard? Councillor Havard? Councillor Higgs?
Against.
Councillor Hussey?
Against.
Councillor James? Martin James?
For.
Councillor Vincent James?
Against.
Councillor Jeremiah?
Against.
Councillor Johnson?
In solidarity with my trade union comrades, against.
Councillor Jones?
Against.
Councillor Kent?
For.
Councillor Kirby?
Against.
Councillor Ariana Leonard?
Against.
Maybe the Councillor Philippa Leonard?
Against.
Councillor Mann?
He's on mute.
Councillor Mann?
Strange enough, for Mr. Tranter.
Thank you. Councillor Marsden?
Against.
Councillor Miles?
Sorry, I can't take part in the vote. I've missed a lot of the debate due to technical issues.
Okay, so I'll put you down for an abstention, Councillor Miles,
no,
or just
no, I can't abstain either. I don't
Okay.
know what the vote was for because I've missed so much of it. Sorry.
Okay. Councillor Morgan?
Against.
Councillor Oliver?
Against.
Councillor Owen?
Abstain.
Thank you. Councillor Parry?
For.
Councillor Phipps?
Against.
Councillor Poole? Councillor Poole? No. Councillor Priest.
Against.
Councillor Price.
Against.
Councillor Pritchard.
Against.
Councillor Ridgewell.
Against.
Councillor Roberts. Councillor Roberts. Councillor Sorrellis.
Against.
Councillor Sargent.
For.
Councillor Scriven.
For.
Councillor Graham Simmons.
For.
Councillor Julian Simmons.
Against.
Councillor Skivins.
For.
Councillor Stenner.
Against.
Councillor Taylor.
For.
Councillor Thomas.
Against.
Councillor Whitcomb.
Against.
Councillor Whiting.
Against.
Councillor Whittle.
For.
Councillor Tom Williams.
Against.
Councillor Walter Williams.
Against.
And finally, Councillor Zapla-Daninsky.
Against.
Thank you. I'll just add these up, members, and I'll be back with you. Yeah, same thing. Okay. Thank you, members. Apologies for the slight delay there. So on Councillor Mann's amendment, 17 for, 41 against and 2 abstentions. So the amendment is lost. So that means now we go back. The substantive debate is on the budget, on the report about the budget. Thank you. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Tranter. Leader, would you like to come back in, please?
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and I won't prolong this as much as I need to. I just need to simply say that I am proud of the way that this authority continues to manage its financial affairs, thanks to our ongoing sound financial management and prudent approach. We are working hard to ensure that the Council remains financially resilient during these uncertain times, and I would like to thank all those involved for their hard work in making this possible. The positive financial statement and settlement announced by Welsh Government is to be welcomed and has allowed us to focus on the delivery of our key services rather than making any type of cuts that we and other local authorities have experienced over the recent years. Caerphilly Council is on a journey of improvement and transformation, and these budget proposals will provide a sound platform for us to move forward. In terms of the council tax, we've consulted on 4.7 and the outcome called for a slight decrease on last year's level. Therefore, we took into consideration this and put forward the proposed increase of 3.9%. It's likely to be one of the lowest in Wales, so these we have already said, and equates to an increase from Band D for properties of just 89 pence a week. Whilst none of us want to see an increase in council tax, we all need to appreciate that it plays an important part in balancing our budget and the long-term resilience of this council. It is important to note that Welsh Government's financial settlement does not cover the financial implications of the ongoing coronavirus pandemic. So, as stated, we need to keep this matter under review, and that is really important that we say that. I fully support this budget, and I'm sure residents across the county borough will welcome the proposals which mean we can protect our key services for the future. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Leader. I've got one hand raised. Councillor Etheridge, please.
Madam Mayor, sorry to butt in, but there are a number of members on the list with a request to join against them. I'm wondering if there are technical issues there somewhere. I think it's about 4 or 5 members.
Okay, I can't see that on my screen. If you just bear with me a second, Rebecca, do we have any issues?
Councillor David, Councillor Ellsbury, and a couple of others. Councillor Goff, I think.
Chair, the only one we can see on the meeting conversation is Councillor Miles, who's already explained the situation.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, sorry, Councillor Etheridge then, please.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor. In order to be consistent, Mayor, can I ask for a recorded vote, please?
I believe from the earlier recorded vote, you need 9 people to support you, Councillor Etheridge.
Graham Simmons will support. Councillor Freeman-Charles will support.
Councillor Owen, support.
I'll support the recorded vote, Councillor Dix.
By my reckoning, that's only 4, so I don't think that's going to happen, Councillor Etheridge. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
There's nobody else indicating to speak. Can we move to the vote, Mr. Tranter, please?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. So, members, we are voting on the budget now, and they are the budget proposals in the report in front of you. You've got a poll now in front of you, so if you could please complete that, and I'll give you 60 seconds to do that. Anybody with any issues, I'll do that after the 60 seconds, if I may. Thank you.
I'm on the telephone line, my vote.
Yes, Councillor Oliver, I can take that now. How would you like to vote, Councillor Oliver?
4.
4. Thank you very much. So, members, did anybody have any difficulties in voting? If you did, could you tell me now, please, and how you wish to vote?
Did mine come up, Mr. Tranter, please, Councillor Priest?
I can't tell you that at the moment, Councillor Priest, but I'll be able to do that at the end of the night. If you can let me know how you wish to vote now.
I was going for.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Councillor Miles here, may I cast a vote, please, for?
Thank you. Any other members? No? So, Madam Mayor, the budget is carried. There were 40 votes for, 17 against and 1 abstention. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Tranter. We will move on to item 6, which is the Council Tax Set-in Resolution 2021 to 2022. Councillor Leonard Stenner, can I ask you to introduce the report, please? Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This agenda item is for the Council to agree a Council Tax Set-in Resolution for 2021-22. As the budget has now been agreed and Council Tax set at 3.9%, members can approve this and officers can progress with the billing process for 2021-22. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Stenner. Councillor Ross Whiting, I understand that you were second. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd like to take this opportunity to second the report for the reasons outlined by Councillor Stenner.
Thank you, Councillor Whiting. Having been moved and seconded, the debate is now in order. Members, if you have any comments, please indicate now using the hands up button. Please turn your camera and microphone on when called, and lower your hand by clicking again on the hands up button when you're finished making your representations. Thank you, members. Councillor Miles, you've got your hand raised. Is that an old hand, or would you like to comment now, please? Okay, I think we can move to the vote, Mr. Tranter, please. Thank you.
I have my hand raised, Madam Mayor.
Oh, I do apologise, Councillor Whitcomb. I didn't see that. Would you like to speak before we move to the vote?
Yeah, I just want to ask the Cabinet member to give Council a brief comparison of the effect of our budget proposals on Band D council taxpayers. Is what Caerphilly Labour are proposing less of an impact on household budgets than neighbouring authorities? And could you give some examples if possible, please? Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Madam Mayor, is that in order? We've already had a debate.
Point of order, the debate is finished.
Advice, Mr. Tranter?
We're now on the council tax resolution report, Madam Mayor. So we can debate that council tax resolution report. There's nothing wrong with that. Thank you.
Okay, I think Mr. Harris would like to respond to that. Thank you.
Yeah, can I just say that effectively now the resolution report is a statement of fact. Council has already approved the budget, and that's all this resolution does, is allow officers to actually make the arrangements, obviously, for the council tax bills to be issued. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Harris. Councillor Whittle, please.
Well, I was merely going to repeat what Mr. Harris has just rightly said. This debate has been held, and you know, really, all you have to do now is take the vote. With the greatest of respect, I think standing orders have flown right out of the window in this meeting tonight.
Thank you, Councillor Whittle. Mr. Tranter, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. There will be a poll in front of you shortly, members. So if you could vote on that, and you are voting on the council tax resolutions, please.
Madam Mayor, we've been asked to note the recommendations.
I believe that's for item 5, the next item.
Yeah.
Oh, apologies.
Okay, thank you.
My mouse is going too quickly.
Okay, Councillor Oliver, how would you like to vote, please?
Will you read it out, please, that I've got to vote, I'm voting for?
You are voting for the council tax resolutions. It's the report number. It's the 6th report in your bundle of papers.
Right. 4.
Thank you. Any other members have any difficulties voting, please? No. So, Madam Mayor, the vote was carried 40 votes for, 15 against and 1 abstention. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Tranter. Moving on to item 7 is the bus emergency scheme. Request to all councillors to sign up to BES2 scheme. Members, the Constitution requires that any decision taken by Cabinet as a matter of urgency must be reported to the next available meeting of Council, given the reasons for its urgency. Members are asked to note the report, the decision of Cabinet and the reasons for its urgency. So noted. We have now reached the conclusion of the meeting. I would like to thank you all for attending this evening's meeting and making it so challenging for myself. I'm happy to declare the meeting closed and you may hang up. Thank you.
Well,